Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story Podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, it's Ivy Slater. Welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. We are in a series right now going on with how to be a visionary leader in unexpected times. So 2020 didn't quite end up being the 2020 we all envisioned in January. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity to chat with other leaders who've been through, maybe not this rodeo, but other rodeos that have been unexpected times in running a business, in leadership, in moving things forward. So today I have an amazing colleague, friend, somebody we met years ago through a mutual client. And again, it's always about relationships, stayed in touch with. Jennefer Witter is an exceptional C-level executive with extensive background in public relations, corporate communications. She wears many hats. In addition to founding a national public relations agency, Witter is a published author, public speaker, keynote speaker, passionate advocate for women in the workplace and diversity with inclusion in corporate America. She's been recognized as a business leader and named one of the country's top Black CEO entrepreneurs by Madame Noir, as well as I can go on and on about Jennefer's accolades, but having been a business owner and a business leader for quote unquote over 20 plus years, we are going to leave that there. Jennefer, welcome. Thank you for taking some time and hanging out with me on Her Success Story today.
It is my absolute pleasure and joy, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and your audience.
So share a little bit more of, I gave your current background, but you've been a business owner for a long time. So share a little bit more of your journey there.
Okay, well, I became an entrepreneur by accident. I had always been working as an employee throughout most of my career, and I started in PR in the early 1980s. And before I started the Borland Group, I was a VP at Ketchum Public Relations, and I did a lot of high-tech PR. And I'll never forget, it was an August morning, the sun was streaming in, and everything was going along beautifully. And I remember thinking to myself, it is just too perfect. And the next month was September 2001, 9/11, and virtually overnight, my entire division just dissipated. And I went from a worldwide staff of 30 to 2. And by the end of the year, it was such a difficult time. And I had also lost my mother around that period that I decided to take a year off just to rest and rejuvenate and rethink. And during that year, I said, what do you want? And I investigated other careers, and I found that I really liked public relations. And then I started to send resumes out to other PR firms. And I said to myself, you know what? I really don't want to go back to where I was. I want to create an environment that was more welcoming, more reflective of who I am. And that's how the Borland Group was born. And I had no entrepreneurial background. I went to classes at SBA. I met with attorneys and other business owners, and the Borland Group was born March 2003, and we've been moving ahead ever since.
So, the Borland Group was birthed out of a crisis situation, an unexpected time of 9/11, which, rocked business overall because nobody saw that coming.
No.
We woke up to an experience, a tragedy by all means.
Absolutely.
And then that tragedy had a ripple effect in business.
It absolutely did. And I learned a great deal from it because in the beginning, the Borland Group was solely focused on real estate. And we just grew. I mean, during that period of the early aughts, business was like manna from the sky. I didn't do any networking. I didn't do any pitching, nothing. It just came. But I noticed around 2005, 2006, that what I had seen in technology, the bubbliness, I was seeing in real estate. And I'm not saying I'm a soothsayer by any way, shape, or form, But I said, you know what? I better start doing something to diversify my business. And that's exactly what I did. So that when 2008 came, the Borland Group, because I started to diversify, because I started to network, and I had a very early start to my public speaking, that we were not only able to survive the Great Recession, but we also thrived during it. We actually grew during that period.
And that's unexpected in the PR world.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because PR is one of the first areas that are cut. Because most of us act as consultants to large corporations, small businesses, whatever. And then when they're looking at what can we cut, and I understand it, you can't cut financing, you can't cut here, you want to protect your staff. So you kind of look to, let's look at PR. And that usually is thrown out the window, to be quite frank about it. And, one of the things that we've learned in over the years, that more businesses have learned, that PR can be very critical to maintaining one's market share and growing it, especially during times of crisis. But with what we're experiencing now is so unusual and so impactful that there are many PR agencies that started January 1 healthy with a good client roster who have now closed down. So this is really a unique period in history.
What have you seen in your journey? Because, in 2008, you had a gut instinct.
Yes.
No, we're not soothsayers, we're not psychics, we're not whatever. Yet there's gut, and I think gut instinct is vitally important. You had a gut instinct and you started navigating. So how are you navigating with your clients today? What are you seeing out there?
Okay, well, one of the things I have to say with the clients that I've had, that I still have, and I will be forthcoming, is that I have lost clients because of the pandemic. And now we're, down to a couple of clients, and that's enough for the time being. But one of the things I've always said, and I've learned, that you have to have, as an entrepreneur, multiple streams of revenue.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Yes, and I have preached that to other entrepreneurs. As you said, I'm an advocate for women in the workplace, and in my seminars, I tell this to women. And with the public speaking, that has been a steady stream of income coming in. And for example, I'm doing a series of presentations for a large real estate firm, and I was going to the buildings, the residential buildings, and mine was the very last event they had in person before the social distancing came up. And so it was converted to online. But every entrepreneur has to have at least two streams of revenue coming in. So if one dips, the other one can help to complement, negate, and keep the business moving forward.
So, and it's interesting because so often it's preached to niche down, niche down, niche down, niche down. And that doesn't mean we're not niching down. It just means we're servicing our clients and we're open to different variables.
Absolutely, because for me, we are in corporate communications and my focus is on women-led and minority-owned businesses. But I'm not saying that if IBM were to knock at my door, I would say, oh, no, you have to be flexible and you have to be adaptable so that when business comes in, if you have to expand to bring it in, then you have to look at it as an opportunity to grow your own footprint. The other thing I say is that a lot of agencies do not put their CEOs first. I'm very big into C-suite visibility because now—
Tell us more about this, because first of all, I'd love for you to clarify first, what does it mean to put your CEO first?
And I was just about to talk about it, is that, you don't want to see that your corporations are these big monoliths. What you want is to have a face to the company because it humanizes the organization, whether you're IBM or a smaller company such as the Borland Group. So with personal branding, it defines who you are, what sets you apart, and you attach it to your organization. You'll see that a lot of times on my social media, for example, it's not under the Borland Group, it's under Jennefer Witter. And I refer consistently to the Borland Group. And people know that the CEO, the founder, they know about the Borland Group, but they think of me first because I make sure that I am tied to my organization. And then that way, when you're going forth and if you're in a social situation, a business networking, you're there representing, yes, yourself, but also your company. And that helps to widen the pool of potential new business.
So, classic example of how I am booked as Ivy Slater as a speaker.
Yes.
My clients are signed contracts with Slater Success.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think the same thing goes for you. Your clients, your PR companies sign contracts and have agreements with the Borland Group. And Jennefer Witter is hired as a speaker, as a trainer, as an author, as a thought leader.
Exactly, but it's all under the Borland Group. And you have to be clear. This is what I always tell people. You have to make sure that it's under a singular thread of communication, because you don't want people to think, well, I didn't know that she was a coach. I didn't know she was a speaker, because you can be getting revenues from both streams. And you have to make sure that people are aware of what you do and how it can also complement the primary end of your business. I always say this, that you can't be scattered. And that's why I always say you have to take a step back and think about how you're presenting yourself, how you're communicating yourself. Because the worst thing is that the reality does not meet the perception, and people think they know who you are, when in actuality, their idea of who and what you are is totally off base.
So in being a business owner for quite a number of years now, I'm not going to do the math.
17. Or is it you or me?
17 years, okay? And being a leader for over 20. When we come on unexpected times, what are some of the first things we start thinking about and some of the actions that, smart leaders who are thinking ahead?
Mm-hmm. Money. Without money, you can't do anything. And so you have to make sure that you have reserves. I have a rainy day nest egg, thankfully, but you have to see, okay, and again, this is highly unusual, this period, but we have to look at what should we pay first? Who should we speak to about lowering the bills? How can we negotiate on with the monies that we owe? Looking at the banks, I have learned I bank with a big banker, and I will go to a smaller bank after this whole thing with PPP and the like, because of the customer service that I have heard others getting from their banks. It is critical to have a strong relationship with your bank so that they can help you through times that we're not trained to be financial experts, or we would be financial experts. So we need that first and foremost. So in these times, you have to be cold-eyed. You have to think about money, because if there's no money, there is no business. Your employees will not work. You will not be able to work. And that's the bottom line. Keep the revenue solid and look at revenue streams that you can enter into or that you can grow.
And so always also what I'm hearing from you is keeping your eye on where opportunity is sitting. So as the times shift, okay, and what we're in now is a few months in, times are shifting, opportunities are popping up in different areas. And I refer to the ostrich effect, those people who bury their head in their sand and say, wake me when this is over.
Yes.
And you wake up to having a business.
We don't have the luxury of sticking our head in the sand, because we just don't know how long this is going to be. And I understand we can't look like vultures. We have to make sure that what we're doing is with empathy, but we also have to keep in mind that we have to keep one foot moving ahead. We have to keep it moving and going forward. So if there are opportunities, absolutely take them. And like one place where I see where people are doing a lot of different things is on LinkedIn. And I'm a very avid follower of social media. I post a lot. I've gained a lot from social media. And one of my friends who owns her own business in Washington, D.C., she developed this really great idea. And I called her up and I said, do you mind if I adapt it to my audience? And she goes, as long as we're not conflicting, sure. So I'm working on doing a similar project that she's doing. And it's one that will help people in terms of their PR for their businesses. And it's an opportunity for me to generate revenue, to be truthful, without doing a huge amount of work. And I got that idea through LinkedIn. So it's okay. You know, what do they say, that imitation is the highest form of flattery? You know, look at those opportunities, as you say, and see how they can fit. The one thing is that, and it's like back and forth, is it's going to take me outside of what I want to be. And I would say that during this period, you have to take the money as long as you know you can do the work, it fits within your needs, and that you feel good about it. Because at the end of the day, you're representing yourself.
I think that is brilliant. And, you know, I always look at it as I am studying business left, right, and sideways to not to copy, but to gain inspiration and to take a variety of different thoughts and inspired ideas to create it as my own, in my brand, in my voice, in my way that makes it unique to me.
Exactly. You know, take that idea, you said it perfectly, and adapt it to you. It's like with my friend who's doing this project with her company. She and I are very different, and I'm fitting it to my brand. What is this phrase that you can't put a square peg in a round circle, or whatever?
Yeah, you can't put a square peg in a round hole.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, it's not, you're going to lose time, energy, and effort doing that. So even if it's not the whole idea, if there is a nugget in there that you can pull out that will fit your business, then adapt it.
I know how busy you are, and I always like to be respectful of that. Any last tips or thoughts for our listeners of how to continue to navigate? This is not going away in a day or two, so we're in this journey.
Yes. Lean on each other. That is the thing that I have been doing. I belong to a women's networking group, Elevate, and they have been providing information in terms of podcasts and written material, but most of all, they're getting together women business leaders, women CEOs in a safe space where we can reveal our fears, our nervousness. We help each other. So you don't need to walk this journey alone. Find somebody or a group of people who you trust, and you work with them, and just be open. This is not a time to clip on a face and say, I'm going to get through this all on my own. I don't have to worry, because it is a worrisome time. So if you can find a group of people that will be there as your safety support net, absolutely go in there, help each other to get through this time. And I can tell you that this has been a saving grace for me.
And I say that simply as community is everything. And don't forget, we are not alone. And, you know, we are stronger in numbers. We're smarter in numbers.
I totally agree. And the word that you used is correct. Community. We need it now more than ever.
And, you know, listeners, take those friend happy hours and make sure you're doing leadership happy hours.
Yes, absolutely. And if you see an opportunity for business, ask. You know, you get 100% of nothing if you don't ask. If you say something, you'll get 50%. And who knows, it may be the difference between you're not sleeping at night and getting a good night's sleep.
And, you know, touche to that, because business is happening. Some businesses are doing absolutely phenomenal and amazing, because there's opportunities for them, and they're a problem that is, they have the solution to the problem that is developing right now. And their businesses are taking off. Now, always remember, business doesn't come to us unless we ask for it.
Exactly.
And I think your comments and your message around it, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be shy of asking. Maybe be very polite about it right now and say, hey, I hear this is a problem. Would you like to talk about
Exactly.
gaining those solutions, and then offer the solution, and that solution has a price point attached?
Absolutely. Don't give it away, and don't undersell yourself, which I speak in broad brush statements. Women have a tendency to do. You have a value, you have the product, and that person needs it. And if you can be an assistance to that person, they will want to use you. So my phrase is go forth and conquer.
I love it. Jennefer Witter, thank you so much for let's all together as a group here at Her Success Story, go forth and conquer. Leadership today is about not short term, it's long term.
I could not agree more. And thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it, Ivy.
Jennefer, how can our listeners know more about you and stay in touch?
You can go on my LinkedIn page. My first name is spelled a little bit funny. It's Jennefer. The last name is Witter, Witter. And you can always email me. It's a long email now. It's jwitter at the Borland Group. And it's Borland is spelled Borrelan as in Nancy, D as in dog group. jwitter at theborlandgroup.com.
And listeners, all that information is in the show notes below. So do not panic. Just read below and you can click right on through. Remember to hit subscribe while you're doing that. We come into your inbox every Monday morning, as well as leave comments. I look at this. I want to know what is resonating, what your biggest takeaways are, who else you want to be hearing from. My team, we go after it. We go after it through social media. We make connections and say, hey, our listeners would love an interview with you. So let us know what you want, and we're here to serve. Thanks for joining us today on Her Success Story.
Don't need your approval anymore, 'cause I've got mine.